Hi, I'm Nicole Dossie. I'm the Executive Director of NCADA, National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. We are in the process of changing our name, so we are soon will be known as Prevent+Ed. But for now, I'm going to welcome you into NCADA. We've been around since 1965, so this is actually our 55th anniversary, quite the anniversary year that we're having. I'm going to give you a little tour, and as we go along, I'll tell you more about the services that we provide.
So this is our counseling area, and what's unique about NCADA is that we don't provide any sort of treatment, but we provide education and we help navigate people to next steps. People who are maybe concerned about their own usage of substances or maybe concerned about someone else's. With COVID, the bulk of our services right now are all happening virtually, so no one is actually coming into the office. So you'll see one of our counselors engaged in a phone call right now. We do phone and then we also do video. That makes it easier and more accessible for people. Over my shoulder here, you'll actually see a poster of our foundress. Her name was Marty Mann. And Marty Mann was the first female to participate in Alcoholics Anonymous. And she decided not to remain anonymous and instead realized that addiction is a family disease and that it's a disease that impacts communities. And so she wanted to create an organization that worked to address addiction or substance use disorders in the community and help spread the word that it's not a moral failing, it's not a character flaw or some sort of lack of discipline. We owe her everything for us, and we like to pay homage to her. So it's not uncommon for you to find either people who are trying to figure out what's going on with a loved one or gain a better understanding of their own codependency, or even just a college student doing a research paper. It's not uncommon to find them utilizing our library. One of our newer programs is a program specifically geared for teens who find themselves getting into some trouble with substances at school. So maybe it's a kid who comes drunk to a school dance or a student who's found smoking weed in the bathroom. Most of the time, the school doesn't really know how to appropriately deal with those cases. They're not equipped to deal with them, and we want them to do something because it's worth paying attention to. But we also know that introducing them to the juvenile justice system or just simply giving them out of school suspension with no sort of follow-up or funneling them to a treatment facility, we know that those three options are really not great options. So in 2014, we started a program where schools who were faced with that kid who shows up drunk to a school dance could call us as a unbiased referral source, because again, we don't provide any sort of treatment. So they could have them come to us as a condition upon their being able to come back to school. And then our counselors could sit with them for about an hour and a half, do a substance use assessment. And if you know anything about teens, you know that kind of setting is really important. So we don't want them to feel when they're coming in to meet with our counselor like it's a cold, stark environment. The counselors who work in this program are very teen friendly. They remember very really what it was like to be a teenager, and we want to make sure that the teens are as comfortable as possible when they come in. So we have games, TV, we have computers, because sometimes we find that when they're out of school for suspension, that their grades start falling behind. We also find that many times they struggle not even necessarily with the academic piece, but just with organization. We've decided that we really wanted to just, again, kind of continue with that welcoming space, because when a kid gets in trouble, it presents sometimes like the worst possible moment for that family. The caregivers freak out. The kid is now grounded or on like house arrest. They don't have their phones. They don't have anything. Or it's like a non-event. And we want to make it some kind of event. Like we want to show that it is important to pay attention to, but also that it's not the end of the world and that you can make a misstep and your life can move forward and it's okay. And the family unit, whatever that looks like, can move forward healthier and more communicative than they were before. So that's really our goal with this guided program. So this is our training room, and during non-COVID times, we usually host probably 3 trainings a week, mostly for adults who are interested in learning and being educated on what they can do to impact substance use in their community. So it could be a Narcan training for first responders. It could be a training for local community coalition leaders. We support, by the way, 29 local community coalitions and provide them with strategic assistance to host events and to do planning and enact ordinances in their community. So it could be a meeting of those folks who come together and share best practices or do some strategic planning. We also host different groups because it is such a large room. We are able to have meetings here where everybody kind of comes together in a shared space. So the second Wednesday of every month, we have something called Coalition on Addictions, and it's where about 70 practitioners will come for lunch and CEUs. They'll listen to a speaker, they'll do some networking. It's a really great place to find jobs if you're interested. So again, second Wednesday of the month at, it starts around 11:45 or noon. We also hold ethics trainings here, lots of professional development trainings because we need them, and we pride ourselves on being really good presenters. So we have created a lot of our own programs in-house that we've then been able to open up, and it's been quite a really nice revenue generator for us. When we first moved into this building in 2014, we weren't sure that we needed a room this size. We didn't know that we would have enough trainings to necessitate a room this size, and as I said before, we average 3 large meetings a week. So the fact that it's relatively empty in here right now is kind of weird. This is our development and external affairs team. Wave hi, everybody. Yes, they're masking, being appropriate. And so right now they're having a team meeting to talk about fundraising, and they've been really busy with our upcoming rebrand. So you see them deep in thought right now. So if this were an episode of MTV Cribs, this would be the point at which I say this is where the magic happens. And this is really, I think, where the magic happens at NCADA. This is our school-based prevention storage room, which is where we keep all of the supplies, where we do our work in kindergarten through 12th grade classrooms. Last year we served about 65,000 kids in 260 schools, and again that's K through 12. Now of course with kindergarten we're not talking about heroin, we're talking about life skills or coping skills. So for example, on our first day in a kindergarten classroom, and we're in a classroom by the way, we're not doing assembly style programs, we'll introduce them to our friend Prickles, and of course Prickles is wearing a mask right now, and we'll talk to the kids about what kind of an animal is this? Well, it's a porcupine, and how do porcupines generally make people feel? Well, kind of scared or kind of hurt. Why do porcupines, what are these spiky things called? Quills. And when do they shoot up their quills? When they're feeling sad, or when they're feeling nervous, or when they're feeling scared like somebody's going to eat them. So we talk about, is this a type of animal that you would want to cuddle up to? Does he make you feel comfortable and all cozy and warm inside? No, of course not. But then we'll introduce them to a teddy bear. And we'll say, well, how does this guy make you feel? Snuggly, warm, cozy, comfortable. And how, when do you hug this? When would you squeeze this tight? Well, when you're feeling scared, or when you're feeling sad, or when you're feeling angry. Oh, so if you had to be friends with either one of these two, would you rather be friends with Prickles the porcupine or with Teddy the bear? Well, of course, you know how this conversation goes. Every kid wants to be friends with the teddy bear, and they want to snuggle it, and they want to be all cozy with it. So we use this analogy to start talking about what it means to be a good friend, and what it means to help comfort people. And it's not until like the 5th or the 6th grade, depending on the district, where we really start talking about drug-specific information, and we'll do that in a really age-appropriate way. So with 5th graders, we start talking about what is a drug. You know, and when you first say the word drug, a lot of the kids are like, oh, I can't believe you said a bad word, but we talk about what that means, that it's a substance that changes the way you act, think, or feel, and it includes things like Tylenol or caffeine. And no, it doesn't mean that they get in trouble if they're drinking caffeinated soda, but it also kind of explains to them why some of their caregivers don't want them drinking soda, like at certain hours of the night, and you can start to see the little light bulbs. Then we'll go into talking about alcohol, and the kids know what alcohol
is. They know name brands, but we start to talk to them about how it impacts the brain. Then we'll start talking to them about tobacco and vaping products. We introduce our super gross tar jars and then our super gross phlegm jars. Middle school, you definitely want to go for the gross out factor. Once we get into high school, we start talking more about brain science, more about neuroscience, how dopamine receptors get impacted by foreign substances in the brain. We talk a lot with teenagers about this thing called enabling, because many times, teens just want to help their friends out, right? And don't necessarily know how to set kind of healthy boundaries. We don't talk about right and wrong and good and bad. Teenagers, kids have enough adults yapping in their ears. We don't want to be that. We don't exaggerate. We give them facts, and they know that they can really count on us to do that. This department is our largest department in the agency, so it's about 30 staff and about 50 to 60% of our revenue. Most of this department are teachers. That's actually my trade. So I've been at NCADA for just now 13 years. I'm actually a middle school teacher. I'm in recovery from teaching. And so we recruit teachers because we know that they can work a classroom, and it's why schools call us back year after year. We do no marketing for those programs. It's all word of mouth. And we believe that substance use can be impacted with prevention. We do a lot of work in the recovery community, particularly with peers. And that's something that I haven't talked too much about, but I'm more than willing to talk more about it because it's a new venture for us. And with the opioid epidemic kind of ravaging communities, we've had to get really creative in how we utilize peers to provide extra support systems. So that's another piece of what we do. The final piece of what we do, and I really haven't talked about this at all, is advocacy. So we are a 501c3, which means that we cannot lobby, but we can use our voice for change, and we can help our community members understand how to make healthy choices for their community and how to make their voices heard to make an impact in their community. We can't tell them how to vote, but we can tell them, we can present to them the public health implications of both sides of the argument, and hope that they make a choice that will impact positively the health of their communities. So we are a nonpartisan organization. We have friends on both sides of the aisle, but our mission first and foremost is public health. And I will say, I've mentioned that 30 of our staff are prevention educators. The other 30 are counselors. They're graphic designers. They're people with MSWs. They're people who have lived experience, who just wanted to work for a place that cares about them. We have some students who have found their way to us and just don't want to leave, and we don't want to quit them either. So we have a real motley crew around here. We're all pretty scrappy. We're pretty resilient, whatever that word means to you. And I think we're all learners. So we all genuinely are passionate about being the very best that we can be so that we can create a community that eventually, maybe someday, is free of substance use disorders. We'd all like to retire early, so help us, won't you?